Hello. Happy holiday to you. Hope you're having a good time. Hope you're resting enough. Well, this morning I've got something very interesting on my plate for you. And let me start by giving you a very pleasant surprise. I've got a colleague of mine from sister station Adum TV. If you watch Bedroom, which is the Adum TV morning show, you should know who she is. Hello, Anokyewaaba. How are you?
I'm doing great, Bernice.
Good to have you. Good to have you. So Anokyewaaba will be doing this with me today, and we'll start off with the headlines, right? As usual, on holidays we don't get the papers, but there's a lot of news around. So we'll go on to first my Joy Online, and we will delve into the headlines there. Get onto Graphic Online. And then also we will focus on some international news as well. Executive Director for the Institute for Education Studies, Dr. Peter Anti, will be joining us for that. But before we go on, I'm not sure, but look, it's a holiday and we are here, you know. As workers in this industry, like we were told right from the beginning, you never get a holiday. But it's not always easy, is it?
It hasn't been easy. It's a tough journey. You know, combining work, motherhood, in fact, even pregnancy. You need to wake up at dawn, whether you're pregnant or not. Me, for instance, I report to work around 5 a.m. every Tuesday to Friday. Even on holidays, even on weekends, we are here. So I quite remember when I got pregnant and I had to come. You wake up in the morning and you feel, can I do this? But for God and country, we'd be here throughout. Some are fortunate they go on leave at early stages, but some of us, me for instance, I go for 9 months. I'm always in the office because it's boring at home, you know. And breastfeeding, work. Unfortunately, you might have kids that are older. So you wake up at dawn, you need to make sure they go to school. Before you take care of the smaller one, then you come to the office, you go pick them at school, and it's too tiring. Yeah. But for God and country, here we are. We're doing it and we'll continue doing more. And this would serve as a motivation to all the youth out there. It hasn't been easy. The last time I was saying on Adum TV that this job is one of the most tedious jobs ever. I remember when we lost our head of technical, which was Modestus. And the next morning I saw the cameramen there working like nothing is happening. You know? Wasn't easy. Even the day we had that, 1 week celebration for him, you could see the camera, they were all broken, but still they had their cameras and they were still working, and we, the presenters, were working like nothing is happening. So it's one of the most tedious jobs you can ever find. But, you know, the grace is keeping us. Yeah. Your end, has it been good?
And when you were talking about motherhood, I just remembered, you know, what I have to go through every morning before coming to work. But like you say, there's just something that drives you. Yes. Something that keeps you going. I know what it is like to do this job without being married, without being a mother. And I know what it is like to be, you know, a mother of one and of two. And, you know, it keeps getting tougher along the line. But like you said, it's also important that organizations and industries have systems that support mothers. And like I said, when you also mentioned the fact that some get to leave earlier, I just remembered my story. For COVID concerns, my doctors advised that I stay away. And I remember my boss then, Elvis, he was so gracious. But he just wanted me around a little more. So he kept texting me and saying, oh, can you come around? You know, the office is empty. And I said, I wish I could. So you're spot on. And I'm sure there are a lot of women who are also watching us who feel same. Yes. And as we celebrate Workers' Day today, it's important that we also focus on that aspect of our corporate lives, that aspect of making it more comfortable, making it easier for women to thrive. Yeah. For women to thrive. I'm always excited when I see women at the top, but it's not easy. It's not easy. And I am not actually surprised that some just, you know, shelve their dreams. It shouldn't happen, but sometimes the pressure is just too much. And I liked a bit also when you said this is a motivation, because when a young girl wakes up to watch you or to watch me, they know that they can do it. You know, they know that it's tough, but they can also do it, right?
Yes.
So happy Workers' Day to all women, especially. Please permit us. We don't get to do this all the time. You know, 2 women hosting the morning show. So please just allow us to be a little biased, man.
Yes.
Please just permit us. Well, we've been joined by Dr. Peter Anti on Zoom, at least to balance it all for us. Hello, Doc. How are you? And happy Workers' Day to you.
Hello. I'm fine. Good morning and happy Workers' Day to you too. It's interesting to look at how men are also doing their best to keep the home and at the same time engage in various kinds of activities. And I've enjoyed the conversation, especially the motherhood side combined with work that we do. If you're a mother in Accra, you know how difficult sometimes it is because you have to keep one eye on the family, another eye on the kids especially, and another eye on your work. And combining all these things sometimes takes extra grace from God to do that. We know that a lot of people sometimes even break down because of this. So it's interesting to listen to you two kind of discussion, and we want to appreciate you all for the kind of work that you are doing, both in keeping the family and also in keeping the work.
And this this day we are celebrating is not exclusive to Ghana. It's worldwide, and it's because it's important to appreciate the contribution of workers to development in the society. And we'll just delve a bit into the headlines, and I'll come back to take your thoughts on the theme for this year's Workers' Day, also known as May Day or International Labour Day. So let's start off with my joyonline.com. Let's see what's happening there. Sorry. Minority takes on cocoa board after Mohammed's claims on cocoa sector. And anti-LGBT bill withdrawal of investment threats will not deter Africa. And that's Speaker Bagbin. Let's touch a bit on that one, and Anokyewaaba, because you remember that when Kamala Harris came to Ghana, there was a whole conversation about a subtle mission to try and compel or lobby or promote LGBTQ plus rights in Ghana. And we had our Speaker of Parliament being very straightforward about it. Here again, he's speaking, and he's saying that if you tell us that you will not invest in Africa again because of what we believe, we don't care. We'll still stand by what we believe. And Doc, I don't know what your thoughts are about that. Quite a vocal Speaker of Parliament. Many have said that they wish the president was as forthright.
Yes, I think that the Speaker of Parliament has been so clear in his mind what the direction of the country should be when it comes to this issue. I think the entirety of the country also believes that we should stand by our principles, our culture, our values, and our norms. So I think that is the way to go. I personally, I don't believe that we should allow some of these things to already come in and destroy the the moral fabric of our society, which is now going out of its way. You will see that some of the principles and the values that we used to cherish are gradually being eroded. And if we add this to it, then we are losing our identity as Ghanaians and as Africans. So the way that the West is going around this is what makes it a little bit disturbing, because you cannot force something into the throat of other people using economic conditions, as the speaker is saying, that they should not tie these kind of practices to the economic gifts or economic grants that they give Africans. And despite our challenges, we are clear in our minds that this is the path that we want to go. We do not want to add this to the already challenged society that we have, and I believe that is the way to go. For the president, I think that he also clear in his mind, but of course, meeting the vice president of America and the kind of circumstances and questions that were asked in contest, I think the president was just informing them that this issue is for Parliament. He doesn't want to make any pronouncements that would prejudice whatever it is that is going on in Parliament. And of course, when they finish with their deliberations, the act will be sent to him, and at that stage, we will know his real stance on it. Of course, I've heard him speak in various churches indicating that this will not be legalized during his time. We hold him by his word, and we believe, for the sake of our children, we believe that this should be the way that Ghana should go. We should not encourage some of these practices within our country.
But there are those who have questioned his job as the Speaker of Parliament and his personal opinions, and they say it's okay if he shares his personal opinion, but for him to hit hard to say the bill will be passed, I beg your pardon, is to suggest that it is within his power as Speaker to determine what the MPs are going to be voting for. His job, they say, is just to be a moderator of events in Parliament.
Yes, it's true. But then, if you are headmaster and you know the position of your students, he is at a position that he understands and knows the feeling of the people he heads. So I think that he's speaking from an advantage position. He knows what deliberations have gone on, and for now, I don't think that we have heard any member of Parliament coming out to say that they are against the bill. I think the issue has been some of the sections in the bill that some people disagree with, and I think there have been some amendments and changes here and there. So I think he knows what he's saying. He knows that his people are ready to let this go through, and with his experience with parliamentary practices and where he stands now, I think that he's saying some of these because of what he's privy to that we might not be privy to.
Well, we are in a very heated political season, and my colleagues at Adwoa and here at JoyNews will be focusing a lot on what's happening within the comes of the parties and looking forward to the 2024 elections. I'm bringing this in because the Domahene, we've heard him say that if you want to be president, right, before we vote for you, let us know what your stance is on this whole LGBTQI plus issue. What are your thoughts on that as well?
Yes, I think the chief is right. The Domahene is right. See, I believe that leaders should be able to they should be bold to state their stand by it, and suffer the consequences. That is my principle. If you believe in something, you say it, you stand by it, and you stand by you suffer the consequences. And I think that people who want to lead this country, let us know what they stand in certain issues. They should not be lukewarm and play the tricks that it's like we are here, we are not here, and so on and so forth. And at the end of the day, some of these things will just go on without the society having a full knowledge of what the leader thinks or what the leader knows. And that is why I believe that going into 2024, the world is shifting to this particular stance. I recently read an article in one of the states in America where even within the school community, even within the school community, there are laws being enacted that teachers can assist kids to take certain decisions about the agenda without reference to parents. And I've seen the video going viral on social media, and people are speaking against this. So we are moving to a certain kind of situation where if we don't have leaders who are principled, who can state their stand and push it forward and suffer the consequences, we might end up putting our kids in trouble. And when this thing gets into the school system, that will be the end of the generation that we are building. So I think that the Domahin is right. Every single person who will be elected to lead this country, I mean, who will be elected to fight for the presidency, should be made to state their stand about this whole LGBT issue, and then let the Ghanaians decide. And then we'll hold the person by his words or her words that this is what he or she believes in. And that when he or she gets the power, he or she will do what is right by Ghanaians.
Right. So there's more to what's happening online, and we'll just delve more into what is on the online papers and then take your thoughts on that.
So moving on to the other story, it's time for a serious discussion about how we can support our local banks. That is Dr. Adwoa forcing there. He's basically talking about how there should be serious discussions on how we can support our local banks.
Right, and that's also tied to concerns about the domestic debt exchange program,
Yes.
And how it impacted banks. Last week, I don't know if you're aware of this, Dr. Peter Anti, some of the major banks recorded losses, and some of them, this is the first in many years. Take GCB, for example, take Stanchart, take ABSA, for example. And there are concerns. We are told, though, that this will not go to affect depositors, but there are those who are raising serious concerns. One of them is the minority leader who put up a post on his Facebook page. We'll just read that a bit, and then we'll take your quick thoughts on that. Minority leader Dr. Kassia Latoforson is worried about the current state of the banking sector in the country, especially the impact of government policies on local banks. According to him, it's time government holds a conversation on how to sustain local banks. We heard from government about a certain stabilization fund, which was all part of the domestic debt exchange program. And there are many who've questioned the funding for that, whole aspect of the program as well. We're yet to receive much more detail on that, but your quick thoughts on the impact on the banks, and we've been told by some analysts to just keep bracing ourselves, especially if we do not get the IMF deal we hope to get so badly.
Very worrying situation, Yes, in the banking system is gradually eroding. A lot of people do not have that kind of confidence that they used to have. Right. Now, if you've been working in the banking sector, how people lost their jobs during the first process of the banking sector. I believe that the stabilization levy that the government said should be looked at. I think it should start operationalizing it as soon as possible to keep the banking sector in shape. Because if you read various growth theories, you would know that countries accumulate wealth, countries are able to develop based on the habit of savings and investment. If you don't have a lot of people in your system engaging in savings, where the money will now be or whatever it is for others to get them and invest in them, then it means that you are going to have problems with your investment, have problems with your savings also. So I sincerely believe that the government should operationalize its stabilization. Some of the banks that are suffering should be given the needed assistance so that we don't have another round of collapse that we experienced during the banking sector cleanup. But for me, I'm concerned with the kind of confidence we are eroding, because it took us a long time to be able to build this kind of confidence within the economy in terms of the banking sector. And it seems that if you are not careful, we will erode all these confidence, and that will spell doom for the economy.
Well, let's see how it goes with our quest to secure an IMF deal. Hopefully, we're able to get that. Some have said, of course, that will not be the magic one, because we know that that's just for balance of payment support. And so there have to be other things we need to do. And government has said so itself that there must be enhanced revenue measures. And that's what we've seen with all the bills. I'm not sure, but we're going to be paying more for juice and more for water. I was just telling someone the last time that every time you go to the market, sometimes when you hope to be one step ahead, right? You know that this was 400 cedis. Maybe you take an extra 150. You go and you're still surprised.
Yes.
You don't know what
it's
to
like
do.
800, 100% increment all the time. And these juice, these bottled water or sachet water we are talking about are basic needs. You can't do without them.
That's the point.
Personally, I wouldn't take a juice. But my kids, you wouldn't have any option because you can't tell them, Mommy is not buying juice because the price is too high. No, they just don't care. All they need is their backpack full of juice and biscuits, and there they go. Yes. So I think it's going to affect us. It's really going to affect us.
And the ripple effect of that, because you see, I'm not sure, but like you're mentioning, I mean, without sounding insensitive, there are many people who have more mouths to feed. And even people, and Benjamin says it all the time, sometimes you're not even having your own family, but there are other dependents, okay?
Yes.
And so we're looking at how this is going to affect the basic economy of your home. What are the adjustments you need to make? And these are not casual things. These are serious things.
Yes.
I know people who've taken their kids out of certain schools because they can't afford it anymore, especially when the dollar started skyrocketing, especially if you're paying for your school, your kids' fees in dollars, but you're in Ghana. Another matter for
And assuming you have more than one child, two, and some would even have to pay feeding fee on weekly basis. Everything, prices of everything is going too high, and it's not the best. And the funny thing is, it's not as if it's certain that this increment will last for a week or two. You can buy it for 50 cedis today. You go tomorrow and it's like 300 cedis. And there is nothing you can do because it's a necessity. You need to get it. Just that you need to adjust. You know, so if you were supposed to buy 4 packs of tissues, you go for 2. And, you know, hoping say the next week somebody will dash you something and then, you go get it and it's going to be all right. But it's not okay. It's never okay, from fuel to gas to electricity. I remember some time ago I would buy prepaid for 100 cedis and it could take me for a month. And now it doesn't last a week. And I bought it and I was like, look at all these, whatever levy, they just keep deducting, and it's like you have the money, but it's not enough. Meanwhile, salaries still remains the same. So, but just as we say for God and country, the country needs to move on. So we need to pay the price. That's what is going on right now.
And that's an important point Anokyewaaba makes, Dr. Peter Anti. We need to pay the price. And at this point, we all admit that where we are, especially when conversations around whether or not to go for an IMF deal, but the experts said, look, we've gone beyond that point. Yes. We need it. It's a do or die affair. If we don't get it, we are in a deep mess.
Getting it is one thing. And using that fund for what it is allocated for or to is also another thing. You know, we've been here and we've had conversations on, I remember this when this Momo e-levy thing came. We thought it was the end of our plight. And even people who were not willing to pay had to, because they felt, okay, if this will cushion the country and we'd all have peace of mind, why not? And the noise around it, how our leaders were positive. At a point, we even had to let go of the toll booths and other things, hoping it would cushion us. And at the end of the day, they come back and tell us, oh, we didn't get the money we wanted and we still need to go for an IMF bailout. We hope the IMF would indeed be a bailout, because trust me, we can't handle another scandal. The taxes are, draining us already. And these little salaries, the last I was saying, so if our managers refuses to absorb these little taxes, that means it's going to affect salaries.
You're right.
It's going to affect salaries. These new 4 taxes, some of them will definitely affect us.
Oh, they will.
And the mega money we are taking, fuel is already, taking it all. And Ghanaians are magicians, I always say. How we survive throughout the month. Because if you sit down and you calculate your income and the expenditure is like 4 times your income. And how we even survive, it's by the grace of God. But we can't always sit and say, God will provide. We are working. We need to have value for money. What we are working for, the money should be able to make us feel okay. It is worth working for it. So since today is Workers' Day, I think we'll have to dive into that and know how we are surviving, even though the salary can't take us 2 weeks into the month. And I think
I like the bit on how you tie it to Workers' Day, because these are all conversations that are important for workers. And we will be delving into that much later on the show. We'll be joined by people who manage workers, who understand. And there's been a lot of agitation in recent past about the conditions of service of workers and those other things. But Dr. Peter Anti, for you, where you sit, as we celebrate Workers' Day, looking at the Ghanaian worker and all the issues surrounding the economy, how they survive, what they earn, what is going through your mind today as a Ghanaian worker?
It's difficult. I read a post on Facebook from a friend, and he was talking about his security, who earns 1,200 cedis a month, and the wards one is in the university, and then I think one is in the senior high school, and then there are 2 private basic schools. And he asked the question, how is this person able to keep up with all these expenses that is coming from the kids and maintain the house with the 1,200 Ghana cedis? And that's the same question I would want to ask today, because in our country, prices never goes down. And that is the serious aspect of it. As prices keep increasing, your salary, your income, or whatever it is that you earn remains the same. You are being taxed, taxes are increasing and everything, but what you earn is the same. Now, how do you balance this with the expenditure that you have and even have some to save for other things? It's difficult for the Ghanaian worker at this time, and that's why I believe that when we elect leaders, I think one of their basic duties is to ensure that the citizens are doing well. They are living not any kind of extravagant life, but have access to basic amenities. They are able to eat at least 2 times a day. They are able to work under good conditions. When they are sick, they are able to go to a good hospital and are attended to. Their kids gets the kind of education that every kid is getting. And then you, the leader, you are free to go. But we don't see that in this country. We have a situation whereby leaders are always telling workers to tighten their belts. Leaders are always telling workers to understand government, to bear with government. But then government does not live a life that seems to suggest that they need, in fact, they understand the plight of the Ghanaian worker. And that is problematic for me. Look at the issue with the pension funds that we've been talking about, and a lot of, the entire Labour front have agreed that they are not going to allow these funds to touch. But you can't have a situation whereby your current earnings are in jeopardy. You cannot have anything to do with, and the ones that you are putting aside when you go on retirement, that will be your supporting system, is also being touched. And leaders do not think that is problematic for the Ghanaian worker. It's a difficult situation to be in right now as a Ghanaian, and I think that we should, the leaders should find ways and means to ensure that the Ghanaian worker is cushioned. In other jurisdictions where some of these things happen, there are ways and means to cushion the worker. There are ways and means to cushion the citizens. But ours, it seems that when we are experiencing hardship, is the time that we increase tariff bills, is the time that we increase everything around us, and then your salary remains the same. How do you survive? It's difficult to be in a Ghanaian at this time, seriously.
Well, let's move on to some other stories, because the show is dedicated to workers today. We'll be delving into all of that. This one on illegal mining. Illegal mining is becoming prevalent, that communities are accepting it, i.e. is becoming the norm, and that's according to the Ilembele DC. And I remember that for Ghana Connect on Friday on Joy FM, this was the conversation, especially on the back of the Professor Frimpong Boateng report, which leaked, which got viral, led to discussions, conversations. I don't know what you think, Anokyewaaba. Dr. Auntie, I'll come to you shortly, but I don't know what you think, Anokyewaaba, about journalists going to the president's residence at Chibi to go and verify for themselves whether or not the claims in that report were true or not. I mean, we saw that happening, and many people have shared their views on it.
As a journalist, stories do come, but you have to be certain. That is why we check, we recheck, and check to get our facts right. It's in public domain. It's been speculations. Oh, yes, it was in the report. But as a good journalist, I think it's a good idea to go or travel all the way and see for yourself if indeed what was in the report resonates to what it's on the ground. So I don't really see nothing wrong with what our colleagues did. Yes.
There are people who've questioned what our colleagues did. But then again, it's also important that there are those who have said, oh, but this happened a few years ago, and so you may not see exactly what. But the idea also, again, is that if there was something that had happened there, according to those who witnessed it, there were certain plantations on the field, and it was almost impossible to dig and then have those replaced as quickly as possible. So those are just what people went to observe.
Bernice, one thing, we being on grounds doesn't mean we are disputing the fact. It has nothing to do with that. We just went there to find out if you have some clues and, have some conversations around it and see if we can arrive at a consensus of what is in there. We are not the best judges to judge if indeed what is in that report is true or not. But we have the right to have conversations around it, what people think, so that at least we all have a fair idea of what the report, entails.
Finally, with you, Dr. Auntie, on this issue of Galamsey, we'll try and tackle one issue before we let you go. What are your thoughts? There are those who have said, well, even if it didn't happen at the president's residence, and I've heard communications officer of the NDC speaking on another platform saying that the president actually has 2 residences in Chibi, and where he took journalists to is not where the thing happened. So many conversations. But there are those who say, by and large, they believe the Dr. Frimpong Boateng report, even if it has certain concerns. Obviously, because of the timing issue, this was produced about 2 years ago, so you don't expect everything to be as accurate now as it was then. But your quick thoughts on our fight against illegal mining, the report, and what we need to do to change the story, even if we can.
Well, I think this requires the effort of all people, all of us. We should get involved. Leadership has a higher responsibility, but aside leadership, all of us, people, we should find ways and this. I believe that there are people who live with these challenges. Last time I spoke to Ben, and I was telling him that I have worked on a research on cocoa issues in Ghana from 2016 to 2020. So I know how people cherish their cocoa plantations, their cocoa farms, things, and I saw the changes that were happening to our cocoa growing areas when Galamsey took charge. And when we went back to talk to the cocoa farmers and talk to the people that were operating within the cocoa system, they had these kind of social groups and other things. Most of them had collapsed because their cocoa farms have been taken over by Galamsey activities, and they were not able to produce the cocoa that they want. So I have a personal experience with the challenges of Galamsey on our cocoa production in Ghana. And I don't think that anybody should downplay the impacts of Galamsey on our lives. I think that what leaders need to do or need to know is that there are people that who are living this challenge. They know, they are feeling it. It's happening in their community. And that's why sometimes when people come on TV, on radio, and they are defending some of these things, I ask myself, are these people aware that there are people living in these communities? There are people who know that these and these people are undertaking this kind of activity. So what are you doing? You are trying to install the intelligence of these people. I believe that leaders should be forthright with us. Those who are engaged in it, we should find ways and means to deal with it. And we know the value chain. It's not those young guys on the field that are really benefiting. There are big men sitting in their offices somewhere who are really behind the galamsey. And if you want to stop this, we need to go for those big people. When you're able to curtail that side of the value chain, those who go on the field, they are just laborers who need some job to do, and they don't even earn much from the activities that they engage in. So let's renew the fight. Let's be committed to fighting it, and let journalists also come out with the what they have observed on the ground. I believe that whether the reports from Professor Performanso were hearsays or whatever it is, there should be a way to validate it, and that is why we have our various institutions that are to undertake some of these investigations. We need to have these strong institutions that can take up these challenges that involve government, so that at the end of the day, we'll be able to safeguard the environment and the safety of all of us. The water bodies are being polluted, and all those challenges that our environment is going through. I don't think we deserve that. And for now, I only believe that we can have institutions strong enough to stand up, pick some of these challenges, these issues, and then investigate to the latter for us to see how best we'll be able to move the environment from its current state.
Fighting this galamsey is more like starting the engine of your car and pretending to be driving while you still remain in your house. It looks like we are deceiving ourselves, because I don't really know who we are deceiving. In the public space, they make it look like, yeah, we are fighting it. But if you are on grounds, I lived most of my life in Dunkwao. And in Dunkwao, from Chechere to Wasay Kropon to Diaso, they are all galamsey towns. And when you're on grounds, you know it's still going on. Our fin is as milkish as it can ever be. So who are they deceiving? So this then is like, it's like we're not doing anything. But they want to prove to the international market or to prove to everybody, yes, we are doing it. But on grounds, nothing is happening. And as Doc is saying, we go and we arrest the boys on field. In fact, they don't own the concession. They didn't buy the concession. They didn't buy the excavators. You know? So we need to tackle from where we have to, then down. But it's unfortunate, these same people are the powerful people in the society that you can't touch. So touching them means you are losing 2024 election. Touching them means there is nobody to sponsor the party. Touching them means, oh no, the party would lose. And for that reason, like I said, it's like starting the engine of your car and pretending to be driving, vroom, vroom, vroom. Meanwhile, and but some years to come, we would know that.
Oh, my dear, we've already started seeing it. The doctors are talking about children being born with certain deformities.
Yes.
We are finding some traces of chemicals in our water and in our food. It's a sad thing. And I always say, we have been fighting this on air, and just permit us to just go a little beyond the usual time we end our headlines, because this is important. And I get saddened, I get upset, I get frustrated, because I remember so well when we started this fight against illegal mining, and the drive and the conversations and look, our colleague Erastus Asaridongo, for example, he literally put his life on the line.
Yes.
To go out and tell stories. There were some of the places he went to with the mandated task force, and they got there and they found soldiers guarding.
Before we realized there was an injunction.
Do you get it?
Yes.
So it's just complicated, and you hit the nail right on the head. I mean, I don't know how else we're going to solve this, but it saddens my heart. And I remember listening to Newsfile over the weekend and hearing Samson share a message from Mr. Kofi Bentel on how he believes that we are where we are because this was not government's fight in the beginning. It was the pressure that people put on government that made government decide to fight.
Are they really fighting it?
And so it's not like we really wanted to do it. We did it because the people wanted it. So, and that's why the impact we want to see is not what we've seen.
This is basically like all of you, getting the gold, you're too many. So 100 people should set aside and we focus on 5 getting the money because those 5 would support the party. This is where we are.
Sadly, this is where we are. Dr. Peter Anti, thank you so much for joining us this morning to do the online review. And I see you nodding in agreement, especially to what Anokyewaaba was saying. And it's always great to have somebody share the story, especially if they've grown up in areas like that. They give you first-hand information. And that's the important thing. It's not hearsay. She has experienced it and she's saying it. So I just pray and hope that we can change the story. We appreciate your time, Dr. Peter Anti. He's Executive Director, Institute for Education Studies. And that will be it for the headlines today. Sorry we couldn't bring in the international news updates like we said we're going to. But it's basically been a conversation around the headlines on myjoyonline.com. We'll take a quick breather. We'll bring you sports. When we come back after that, we'll be delving into conversations around the Ghanaian worker this day.